Whenever Democrats are losing an argument or don't have one in the first place, they're always going to fall back on their good old reliable attack. And that is, of course, accusations of racism, which is exactly what we're going to see over in the House of Representatives during this debate on the census. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
So Mr. Yang, what is the census sort of used for? Why do we conduct this onerous process?
The principle used for the census is twofold. One is for the apportionment of Congress, the apportionment of seats in Congress. And the second is to get an accurate count of the population. So when we're distributing funds, whether it's $2.2 trillion in federal funds or state and local funds, that we're distributing in the right way. What that means literally is where roads are built, where schools are built, what services are needed in different communities. For businesses, what that means is what stores get built and what you stock in those shelves of those stores. I live in Fairfax County. The fact that our Costco has approximately seven different types of rice is a reflection of the fact that Fairfax County is about 20% Asian American.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady from California. I would now recognize the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Well, first of all, I disagree with the idea that there's a constitutional requirement for conducting a census so that we can have different varieties of rice at Costco. I almost want to say that almost all countries conduct a census.
Mr. Chair, that's racist.
Does the gentlelady have a... Does the gentlelady from Wyoming have a response?
Rice or hamburger or any other food stuff, that isn't why we conduct a consensus.
Mr. Chairman, those words, as ill-advised and foolish as they were probably not engaging in personalities. So I think we can let that go and call it even.
Yes, Mr. Chair,
I was using the terminology that Mr. Yang used, if you weren't listening.
I was listening, but I was also getting your vibe.
Almost all.
The gentlelady from Wyoming will proceed.
Almost all countries that conduct a consensus actually have a citizenship question, and the UN says that it is a best practice to include a citizenship question on these censuses. Countries that ask about citizenship are Canada, Australia, Ireland, Germany, and Mexico. The source of this is the New York Times. Mr. Mayfield, I'd like to focus on the Census Bureau's decision to utilize the differential privacy methodology for the first time in the 2020 census. I am incredibly concerned that intentionally creating structural inaccuracy in census data collection at the lowest unit has impacted the reliability of nationwide census counts, congressional reapportionment, assignment of presidential electors, redistricting, and federal funding allocations. In light of these concerns, could you briefly explain the steps that the Census Bureau took when adopting and implementing this differential privacy within the 2020 census?
Data swapping, which was the method used in the previous three censuses, had always been adequate, and to this day, there is still no problem with it. There is a 2023 study by researchers from Harvard, NYU, and Columbia that finds that data swapping is just as good as differential privacy, but it doesn't alter the data. There was no reason to do this. Now, to give you an example of just how bad it is, again, this is post-use of differential privacy. That study found that the use of differential privacy, for instance, if you had 3 Hispanics on one block, could create a variance anywhere in the state of 0 Hispanics or 6 Hispanics. In other words, a 100% difference either way. All of the data, as Mr. Miller alluded, below the state level has been subjected to differential privacy. Because of the way the algorithm works, it's a top-down algorithm, none of the data can be released in unaltered form. You cannot actually get the results of the survey below the state level. So you may know there are 9 million people in Indiana, but you don't know how many people there are in Muncie. You don't know how many people there are on Mayfield Street in Muncie.
They cooked the books, and they did so intentionally. Is that a good way of describing it?
That is accurate.
All right. So they didn't follow the Administrative Procedures Act. They didn't put this out for notice and comment. They didn't solicit information from people, from statisticians or economists or even states or local governments about how best to do the census of counting their people, as to do as Mr. Yang says, which is to know how many people live in our country. They didn't do any of that?
It's even worse than that, Congressman. Every single statistical group objected to this by letter. Every single state, the National Conference of Legislatures objected, Maine objected. Everyone knew, it was well known that this would not work. And the census civil servants, a small group of them, went ahead with it because they wanted to do it, not because there was any need, and disregarding the fact that it made the census inaccurate at the enumeration stage.
Now, I find all the census talk really interesting here. I'll get to that in a second, but let's address the big topic, okay? You have Representative Kamlager-Dove, and you can see the wheels in her brain turning, because as soon as Representative Hageman says, you know what, I don't think the census was ever designed, how much rice should be on the shelves at Costco, that's when Kamlager-Dove actually springs into action and says, oh, Yang, Asian, rice, Asian, racism. Okay, she springs the trap and says, oh, Hageman, you fell right into it. You've exposed yourself, okay? And of course, her attack is so ridiculous that even Jamie Raskin has to jump in and say, I don't think she intended to say that, although her comments were ill-advised, okay? And Hageman, of course, has to say, you do realize that you just had Yang mention rice in Costco because of the number of Asians, all right? You do realize he just referenced that, okay? And when Kamlager gets called out on all this, what is her response? I was just picking up on your vibes, okay? Because when the Republicans obviously are accused of racism, right? The Democrats can't point to anything we've actually said or done or believe or acted on. What do they say? Oh, it's in your words. It's a dog whistle. Because how can you ever combat vibes or dog whistle accusations, okay? But luckily, all of this stuff is complete garbage. And as I said, so much so that even Lefty Raskin had to say, we're not going down this road, okay? But let's go ahead and get back to the census talk, because I find this really interesting. According to Yang, the Democrat witness, what's the main purpose of the census? It, of course, is to allocate seats to Congress and to determine where money is spent. So obviously, there is a vested interest in having control of the census. And in 2020, they started trying out this new system, as Mr. Mayfield points out, right? And of course, what were the results of that system? Total and rampant inaccuracy. Because if you recall what happened in the 2020 census, and by the way, this is from census.gov, you had undercounting and overcounting in certain states. And guess which way it fell, all right? You had undercounting in many red states, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas. The only undercounting that happened was in Illinois, and that was only by a little bit, 1.97%, okay? But where did the overcounting happen? Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Rhode Island, by massive amounts, by up to 6.79%, okay? And where was it overcounted in red states? Oh, in Ohio by 1.4 and Utah 2.5, okay? So obviously, there's something going on here. As Rush Limbaugh always used to make the point of, all right, it's funny how all the mistakes only go in one direction. Whether it's the media, whether it's the census, whether it's polling, right? The errors always seem to go in one direction. And I find that kind of odd, all right? And of course, what's another reason why the census could also be, messed around with a little bit? And that, of course, is to count accurately citizens in this nation, not illegal immigrants. Because if we didn't count illegal immigrants as part of the census, or at the very least knew how many illegal immigrants there were, all right, the Democrat states would stand to lose a whole lot of money, because the sanctuary cities then wouldn't receive all of those federal dollars. And then what would happen? They'd have to spend their own money, bankrupt their own states, propping up their own ideals, which of course are that there are no borders, no one's illegal, everyone's welcome, and we're going to pay for you to be here. But of course, they can't actually do that without the massive infusion of federal money, because it wouldn't make economic sense and it would ruin their states' economies. So of course, they actually have a vested interest in all of this garbage. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.